All right, welcome, folks. We are in season 3, episode 1 of the exit interview. Yay!
Yeah,
Kevin.
season 3. That's right.
This is wild.
Big time.
Yeah, we might just stick around for all this work we're doing. We might just make it out here.
That's right. That's the goal.
Yeah, that is the goal. So tonight we want to welcome Nedra Hall. Nedra and I met each other in 2018, where we were both doing totally different things than we're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And she is here to tell us her story. When I reached out to her, she said, "Oh yes, my story has to be told." So I am so excited to have you in the space. Welcome, Nedra.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yes. So Nedra, tell us about your educational journey. Like, how did you get to teaching? What made you decide to become an educator? How did you get here? And you could even go back to reflecting on your own educational experiences growing up.
Yeah, for sure. I just remember that I always was one of those kids that wanted to play school, and I always wanted to be the person in charge of the school. So, that's kind of where my interest in getting into education started. And I found myself in education here in Colorado back in 1992, when I had relocated from Colorado Springs here. My ex-husband was in the military, and I came to Aurora Public Schools. I started at Montview Elementary, which is where I spent most of my career, pretty much all of my career, except for 2 years. I was in Aurora for 26 years. So 24 of those, like I said, they were spent at the same school. And during that time—
That's some dedication. That's a long time.
I know, huh? It is. And let me tell you, though, when I called the district to say that I was resigning, I was in tears and talking to the person on the other end. She said, "Well, that is unheard of nowadays. We don't have too many people that's been around as long as you have. So what's making you leave?" And boy, that was the $1 million question for sure. But and I'll get to that. But again, I did several roles in APS while I was there. I started out with Title I paraprofessional. I was an educational assistant, did a lot of programs for the schools. And I ended my career in APS in carrying dual roles as a family liaison and a dean. So that's kind of been my journey through APS and in education here in Colorado.
Yeah.
And so, when I met you, you were a family liaison working
I was
there.
I was doing dual roles at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you, for folks who might not understand the position, can you explain like what the family liaison is and kind of some of your experiences in that position?
Sure. Yeah. So a big part of my role was to increase parent engagement in the schools, help families advocate for their students in their learning processes, and provide resources for all of the community families, network with outside partners, and build those partnerships for the school that were hopefully sustainable relationships. A lot of them were, and some of them weren't, but that was a big part of what I did as a family liaison. And I really enjoyed that role.
Yeah, no, I think that's important work. I think at our school right now, that's like one of the big things that we try to do is how are we connecting with families? So that's really important work. So you said you were at Montview for 24 years.
Yeah.
So people don't usually, and then you said in Aurora Public Schools for 26 years.
Yeah.
I'm not a math teacher. I'm a social studies teacher, but based on what you're telling me, is for 24 years at Montview was pretty good. Yeah. Tell us about what caused you to leave Montview.
Well, again, when I always loved working at Montview, but my last year in Montview, we did get a new administrative team. She kind of brought in her own team, And one of the people that she brought in was basically to replace me. And I got a phone call over the summer from the principal to say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm bringing in somebody else to do, similar role that you've been doing, but she's not going to replace you. But, I'd love for you to support her and train her because she doesn't, she hasn't done this work before. And I know you have this experience. And, I just remember in my spirit feeling like that was just such a setup. It just didn't feel right because how in the world, we're in elementary school, number one. So behaviors in elementary school are not behaviors in middle schools and high schools. So there's no reason that you would need 2 deans in an elementary school. There's no reason.
Yeah.
So I remember I went and met with them over the summer, and I just remember there was a lot of eye contact between the ladies. And it wasn't like, oh, like this is a great idea that she has. It was more of, I don't know, kind of really deceitful, I think, And so, fast forward to the school year, they really started to put me in positions that I had not been in. Not that I was above any of the work that they asked me to do, but it was how they did it, because it was almost like, I'm going to put you in your place and let you know who you are. And I am in charge and this person's in charge now, and you are not this person anymore. I'm going to put you in your place kind of thing. And I just remember that parents, this is totally true story. Parents were coming up to me at, morning recess before school started or after school when they would see me and saying, at that time, my last name was still Rudolph. And they said, Miss Rudolph, what's happening? What is going on? Or maybe I had changed my name, but anyway, what's happening? What's going on? You're doing jobs we've never seen you do before. Why are you outside, in the mornings? And why are you doing this? And when I call to say I have this problem, why aren't they passing me along to you? So parents started to notice this shift, and for me, that was really, that was hard, because most of the times when those types of shifts happen in schools, parents aren't aware of it. When it spills out into the community, the parents and kids and all of the staff, that they are aware that, hey, this person isn't being treated the same, that's a problem. And so really I was going to work daily that last year, hyperventilating. My husband would take me to work in the mornings and pull over because I couldn't make it to school. That 10-minute drive would become a 20-minute drive because he'd have to pull over because I'm hyperventilating and crying, and just it was just a really traumatic year for me. And just lots of negative experiences, relationships that I had established with kids. I felt like they were being undermined. It was a lot. I experienced and saw a lot that last year, and I had never experienced, because I mean I've worked for several principals, as you can imagine, in 26 years. So at Montview alone, I think I worked for 5-6 different principals. So to have an administrator, my office was across from this other woman that they brought in to replace me. My office was across from her, and to see these 3 administrators standing and gossiping and talking about colleagues that I had worked with for years was like, what is happening? It was heartbreaking. And I knew that if they were discussing other staff members like that, I could only imagine what they were saying about me, because I was kind of like really in your face and kind of really pushing back on a lot of things that they were, doing and doing to the school. Because it wasn't just me. It really was a kind of an internal, kind of an upheave. Because after I left, we lost, Montview lost quite a few staff members after I left. So just like I said, just those traumatic experiences really, really pushed me out the door. That treatment I had never received before.
And that's a long time. I mean, Kevin and I, we say this so much, right? You talk about your husband driving you to work and that experience, and we name it here on the podcast. We didn't coin this, but we talk about racial battle fatigue, and we talk about the ways that Black folks are experiencing, just like you're saying, right? This hyperventilation, questioning everything that we do, just kind of feeling like we just cannot get grounded.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out like how we can navigate this. Can we leave? Can we not leave? Crying like the works, like not wanting to go to work, but needing to pay bills or whatever situation, or not wanting to leave because you have these
relationships with the kids.
Exactly.
Yeah. So please, I mean, we kind of hinted to it at the beginning of the podcast, but can you tell us about that conversation, that last straw where you knew like it's time to call down to central office or whoever and say like it's time for me to go?
Yeah, but what you said, and again, I'm not a math teacher, Asia, forgive me. You 24 years, but 26 years. So you left Montview.
Right. I one of the assistant principals that I had worked for previously at Montview had become a principal at another school. And she called and asked me if I would come over and run a program at her school. And so I was there for 2 years. She left, she retired. And when she retired, I went back to Montview. Yeah. But Asia, back to your question about when I knew, when it was the last straw for me. So in 2019, that summer of 2019, Montview had gone through a remodel. And in that process of remodeling Montview, I got a new office. I got a new office. And, you know, it was much smaller than the space that I had been used to working. As a family liaison, you know, I would keep clothes and supplies, school supplies, you name it, for families to come in and access coats. And when I got this smaller space, I didn't have that luxury of having the things available to families. So they found another place for me to put those things, and that was fine. But it was no longer something that I was kind of in charge of. The other lady kind of took over that, and I was like, okay, fine. As long as I know parents are still getting those resources, I'm okay with that. So one day the principal comes to me and she says, hey, are you going to be really mad at me? She says, but I'm going to have to move you out of this office. I'm going to put you in a space that's, you know, down on a primary wing. You're going to share this space with another person. And by the time I moved into the space, the other person had been there. So her space was established, you know, she kind of had her desk and things. And so when they moved me into the office, they put me against this wall that backed up to a restroom. And the vent was kind of over where I sat. And I could hear everything. I could smell everything. And all of my things were in boxes. And I remember when I got to that place, when they moved me and I was sitting there at my desk, and I said, you know what? This is my last move. I won't unpack these boxes. I said, I'm out of here. I just knew then, because at that point that told me that my position, I wasn't important enough to be given this brand new office with new furniture, that kind of thing. I didn't deserve that. So instead, I'm going to put you in a place where this is what you have all day. People coming in and out. There was no privacy. So if I needed to work with a parent and have some privacy, I no longer had that. I no longer had that. And I just knew then, I said, I'm out of here. Because I can't serve families if I don't have a private space to honor their privacy and their respect, you know, respect them and their stories, what they're coming in with me to, you know, they're coming in to say, hey, I need help with this. I need help. And they don't want everybody in the school to know that. But in the office that I was in, there was no door. It was just kind of an open space. And again, like I said, there was a bathroom there. And I just knew that was it for me. That was it.
Wow. And so you're calling down to HR. You're letting them know you're leaving. They say, we've never heard of this. Why are you leaving? And so what did you say?
I could hardly even talk at that moment. I was so upset. And I just said, it's obvious my time here is done. You know, APS is changing. And I don't think I fit in this shift any longer. And she, you know, and the lady did ask, well, is there something else going on? But I felt so powerless. I didn't feel that I could be 100% transparent without there being consequences for me, some type of long-term, you know, consequences, especially if I had ever considered going back to APS. And I did try to go back to APS. And of course, it was the toughest thing in the world to get back into the district, because the principal that I left under, let's be honest, like, she was the golden girl in APS.
Interesting.
And we didn't actually get to elect her as our principal. She was supposed to be an interim principal, and they just placed her in the position for the year. And, it was just kind of a ripple effect. Once I left, other people started to leave. So, but I felt powerless in really saying to her what was happening to me, because even if I had shared everything that had happened to me, because I'm probably giving you guys the most condensed version because, our time restraints. But did I even have somebody that could be my advocate, somebody that was my ally in the district? And at that moment, after 26 years and feeling like I'm being pushed out, I didn't feel like I had that support, So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that the fear of retaliation is so real.
It's very real. Yeah. And I think especially for educators of color, especially, I feel like it's really a thing for us because, like I said, we don't always know who our allies are and if we even have true allies, because
that's right.
Let's be honest, like the new principal that they put into place at Montview was a woman of color, African-American woman, but she was also a biracial woman. And so I feel like she could easily, because, she had the look, right? She had the look, so she could easily assimilate and do whatever she needed to do to fit, and she could code switch and it would be okay. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have that flexibility of code switching. I can take this wig off, I'm gonna still be a Black girl. It's what it is. I don't have that where I can go back and forth and people are gonna look at me differently because this is how I sound, this is how I look. I have this nose. Like, I don't have those alliances in APS. Like, she really had some strong alliances. And I knew that trying to get back into APS was probably going to be tough for me because she was probably angry in the way that I left also. So yeah.
Can you tell us about how you left? Did you not wait till the end of the year?
I did not. I was out of there at the end of January because I could not see myself staying an entire year. I couldn't imagine what was going to happen to me. What more would I have to withstand if I stayed the remainder of the year? Basically, like I think I mentioned this earlier, I felt like relationships that I had established with kids, because remember, I had been doing the work of the dean for some years before they came in and brought this, white woman in to do the work of the dean, who of course really didn't do much because, she had that white saviorism going. So discipline became, let the kids come in my office and play in a big box and feed them cookies and candy. So I felt like I would see kids in her office, in her space, and I would say something to them and basically get the door closed in my face. So they couldn't directly tell me, don't talk to this kid, but they would do other things to keep me from talking to kids and to keep me from doing the things that I had done, using the strategies that I had used forever to get those kids back to a place where they could go and work in the classroom. They didn't want me to do that at all. And so it was craziness.
It's we'd like to say it surprises us, but it doesn't. We've heard, it fits a pattern that we've seen over and over again. And so we just are so happy you're here to share your story, and we're going to take a break here, and then we will come back and hear the rest of your story, Nedra.
Awesome.
All right, so we're back, and at the break, I brought up something that I think I want to talk about more, and that's the conversation of colorism, and the conversation of what happens when we put Black folks in positions of power, in school districts and administration roles, and how they are capable of still harming Black folks, right? I say this all the time, and if you've listened to this podcast, if you know me in the streets, I've said this to you. Every Black person in Selma didn't march, right? Every Black person, some Black folks say, you know, I got a good job, I got to do my thing, I'm just going to keep my head down, and continue to harm Black folks, right? And in order for white supremacy culture and education in general to exist, and around this strong train that's running on, it needs Black people to keep being silent or oppressing other Black people. Mm-hmm. So when you said, Nedra, like this person they brought in, that she is a biracial woman, that she has her white counterparts talking about you in these ways and other people in these ways, it's not surprising.
No, at all. No. And like I said, the team that she brought in, you know, they were two white women, and, you know, it was, I felt like she fit in with them a lot more than she did with me and the other few Black educators that were in that school at that time. You know, our relationship with her was very different than what it had been with our previous principal, you know, Mia, and it was very different. And I knew that Mia was my ally. I knew that I could go to Mia if I had concerns, if I was being mistreated or anything like that. But I no longer had that when I got the new principal. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's super hard. Mm-hmm. And it's so unfair. And you're live, like I'm live and I can see your face. And like so much I could see, like sometimes you're like right there, right? Yeah. And it's so, I'm so glad you're sharing this. And I feel like, you know, this has been years now since you've left the school district, and the pain is still there, but I really appreciate you sharing your story. Yeah. For other people, right? Because again, like I've said before, plenty of times people say, well, what if it's this? It's not just everybody. It's just this district. It's if they went over here to this place, if they were they weren't teaching long enough. They were right, like all these reasons. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, like, we're talking to people all over the country who have similar experiences. Kevin always says this when we get off the call with people, like, it's the same story. Yeah. Right? It's the same story. Yeah. And so I'm going to ask the question and I have to ask it every time, is just thinking about your lived experience working in rural public schools, thinking about working with children and families and other educators for 26 years, and like all the things you've seen, the people that have come and go. What do you think administrators, districts, unions can do to keep Black folks in education spaces, if you think that there's a strategy?
That's a tough question. It's a good question. And I'm not sure that I know the answer to that. I mean, because as people of color, we are constantly dealing with, you know, the microaggressions and the other direct, blatant forms of bias on a daily basis. And I think, I don't know if it's the district that can offer it, to put together support groups for us and have safe spaces to come together and talk about it. I don't know if that's the district or if that's just as teachers, as educators, as paras, all those folks that are involved in the daily operation of a school. I think it's just, it really kind of falls on us to develop those safe spaces, create those opportunities for us to come together and kind of reflect on what's happening to us, what's being directed towards us, those types of things. I don't know that the districts could actually offer what we need. I really don't, because the people that in most states, you know, they don't look like us, you know. Yep. And so I don't know that they can actually give us what we need, or if they're going to fully give us what we need. I think a lot of times, and, not just in schools, but in any place that, people of color are often offered just kind of a little bit, I'll give you a little bit on the spoon, but I'm not going to give you everything that you need. I'm just going to give you a little bit to somewhat appease you, but I'm not going to give you really what you need to allow you to move forward, to grow, to, have opportunities. I'm just not going to give you everything that you need.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's so real. I don't know who said this, and Kevin, you might know. You're so well read. It is like, what is it? I'm going to butcher this. No one's going to give you the education you need to free yourself. Something like that. And you know what I'm talking about, Kevin?
I know the quote. I can't remember who said it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, basically like that. Why would a school district give us a space to empower ourselves to leave?
Right.
Or to have voice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just I don't see it happening.
And the fact that they don't understand what we need. And sometimes it's just to be allowed to be treated with respect and dignity. As in your case, it sounds like you have moved on and, you made that difficult decision. We know how hard it can be. But now that you left the classroom, what are you doing now?
So I am working at Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum. I work in their education department. I am education program coordinator there, and it is allows me to still stay close to education because we do have a small, it's an enrichment program, but it operates just like a school. So it's for kids who are interested in aviation and careers in aviation and aerospace. Nice. And so I still get to be close to kids. And I still get to be close to education because we still work with some schools. We partner with some schools and bring in programs. But yeah, so that's where I am now. So like I said, it keeps me close to kids and education.
Oh, wow. That's great. I always often, when I fantasize about leaving the classroom, sometimes I'm like, it'd be kind of cool. Cause I'm always like, I'm good at kind of teaching and I love being involved with education, but I always fantasize about working like in the educational wing of a museum because I know there's always tours coming in, and there's, field trips, which are the best things about school. So if you could help facilitate that, so that's great that, and it seems like, Asia, that's another commonality. I think people can mark that on their bingo cards, is people finding ways to continue to do the things that they love, even after they've left the classroom.
Yeah, go where the kids are. I get more and more as we were heading into winter break, people are finding me and saying like, can I just talk to you? I'm ready to leave. What can I do? And for me, entrepreneurship was the thing that I chose, but for other people, it is, they still want to be working for others or in some capacity, which is that's awesome. And I always say, go where the kids are. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, YMCA. Like you're saying, there's so many places where youth are showing up and they need folks who've been in education to be a part of that conversation, right? And you can still do that work. I know a lot of folks say, I want to do DEI work. Go where the children are, right? There's so many orgs here that need us in those spaces, and specifically Black educators in those spaces. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's great. And our last question, my favorite question, Kevin, I want you to ask it today.
The greatest question, I think, the question we all want to, in 2023, we want to focus more on this question. What is bringing you joy, Nedra?
I think what brings me joy is that I still, like I said, I still get to work with kids every day. I still am able to be in a place that actually recognizes my talents and allows me to, you know, use those talents and skills in a way that's beneficial to the students that we serve every day. I still get to see those school kids come in. That brings me joy, you know, when you talk about the field trips and I see teachers and I see teachers with that one struggling kid, and I can go over and offer a little bit of support in that moment. Like, those things still bring me joy. And it brings me joy that I was able to walk away with my head held high, and I have no regrets.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that last part. The joy of that feeling, right? the joy of having your dignity and knowing where you set the line and what you said you would and would not stand for. And I think that's important for us as Black people and Black educators, you know. So yeah. Asia, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that was a perfect way to end it. Like, the head held high. I think that I've been hearing more and more folks are wanting to leave education, but they're afraid that people are going to talk about them negatively if they leave. Yeah, they're going to do all these. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know how it is, though. It's like when you leave a job or any place, you feel like the outsider, like your friends who were your friends at work, they no longer want to talk with you or anything. Like, you've done something so terrible and so wrong for advocating for your health and for your peace. And for me, I'm sorry, I'm tearing up, but it really was about advocating for my health and peace, you know, so yeah,
that matters, right? It has to be you first.
Yeah, for sure.
It has to be you first. A lot of us, we want to stick in there, we want to do the thing. The principal needs me, the such and such needs me, and they'll go.
Yeah.
They'll leave, they'll retire, and you're there still.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because when I really reflect on my career, when I really think about it, there are probably times that I should have gone a long time ago. Because remember, you don't just get those microaggressions from the administrators, you also get them from your colleagues.
Yep.
And so, you know, when I think about all of the things that I endured throughout those 26 years, I probably should have gone a long time ago. But your commitment, like you said, to your principal, to the school, to the kids, and to the families, those things really kept me, because I loved Montview Elementary School. I loved the demographics that I worked with. I loved everything about the families. So for me, it was like the kids and the families, like, they really kept me going, you know. I felt like I was with my family when I was with those families, right? So but when I think about, like, when I really reflect over my career and think about some of the things that I endured during that time, I'm like, dang it, I stayed, I put up with that, I allowed that to happen, you know. And you know what I forgot to mention was one of the things that happened to me that last year. They did a survey with the staff. And of course, I didn't get to be a part of it. I didn't get to participate in it. It was just for everybody else. And the things that were said on the survey from people that I've, like I said, been colleagues with forever in the day, and people that I thought were my friends.
Yep.
And they let me see the results.
Of course.
Of the, you know, very divisive, right? They let me see the results. The staff did not know that I would see the results, and I did see the results of that survey. And that was another thing that kind of broke me. And I knew then, I was like, it's time to go. You know, because people won't say those things to you directly. They don't share those things like, yeah, I don't like the way you did this or that. They don't share their concerns, but you get them the opportunity to hide behind a survey. And it's like you see things that you would not believe. And so that was the other thing that really broke me. Yeah, it was, that survey was rough reading the results. and to sit across from these three people, because they read them to me in that meeting I told you about that I had with them. And they were looking at my face like, do you see what they're saying about you? And they said things about the previous principal, Mia, also. And I was just like, what is happening? Who is this?
Mhm.
And, some of the answers that you read, you knew right away who it was.
Yep.
You knew right away. Like you could almost say, oh, this is that person. And some of them, I was kind of like, who wrote that? So that made it hard for me to continue to face those people every day, because I felt like I was walking through the hall saying, I bet she's the one that put that answer.
Yep,
I bet she's the one.
But again,
It was driving me crazy.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, people talk about gaslighting these days,
Yeah.
and I think, as Black folks, we know this all the time because we're told things that it's just us, we're taking it too seriously.
Yeah.
But that, I feel like that's that intentional stuff that they do, that to try to, like you said, try to push us out, right?
Yeah.
When they're tired, don't have any use for us anymore, don't like the things that we have to say. That's the type of things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in my buildings that I've worked in, and I've heard about it. I've heard about it from other folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's so real. Yeah. Well, Nedra, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you both.
Yeah, and we appreciate it. I really pray that you're on the way to healing in your space. And I know this was really tough, but know that other educators who come and give us feedback always say oh, I heard that episode and this was so good. And this is what I'm going through. So know that it doesn't just fall on to ears that cannot hear your story. We call out and talk to Black educators all the time. And I hope that this was in some way a healing for you too.
It was. For sure.
Awesome. All right, this concludes our first episode of season 3 of the Exit Interview. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.